Getting solar makes sense as a financial decision, but it can really hold up what you can do with your property. It complicates refinances, complicates resales. And it's something that I've started to see, more and more over the past couple of years, these solar companies getting in the way of refis and of sales. So they don't have to get in your way, but I at least want to raise the issue on the podcast today. And if anybody does think about solar, I'm not trying to encourage it or dissuade it, but at least know the questions to ask before you sign any sort of solar contract.
You found the Real Estate Law Podcast. Because real estate is more than just pretty pictures, and law goes well beyond the paperwork and courtroom arguments. If you're a real estate professional or looking to build real estate expertise, then welcome to the conversation and discover more at realestatelawpodcast.com.
Welcome to the Real Estate Law Podcast. Once again, my name is Jason Muth, and we're here with attorney, broker, Rory Gill from NextHome, Titletown Real Estate and UrbanVillage Legal. Welcome to the show once again, Rory.
Welcome. It's good to be here now, deep into the second season of the podcast.
Yes, deep into the second season. I thought you were about to say the second season of the pandemic, but that also has just turned the page into its second year. But yeah, as we were just talking about prepping for this recording, you just said, "Oh, casual Monday," and I said, "Well, yeah, it's a little casual because I was able to get my vaccine today, so I have some loose clothing on. It was easy to get my shot with my T-shirt, and I'm fully expecting to break out into night sweats in the next couple hours as my body starts to take to the vaccine. But yeah, it's a very exciting day for me. Like I'm in a really good mood."
Oh, I'm in a jealous mood, but
yes,
I'm glad that the end is in sight for all of us and for you especially.
It is. Well, hopefully within by the time this is airing and fully produced, maybe you'll have had your first shot as well. But I went over to Fenway Park to do it, which I thought was actually kind of cool, and the process was just really quick. You show up right around your appointment time. Let's see, I was there 10 minutes early. They allowed people in 15 minutes early, and they had dots on the floor where to stand. I think the whole process was about 40 minutes because they make you wait there for like 15 minutes afterward just to make sure you don't pass out or have any terrible reactions to the vaccine. But
not bad.
Yeah, everyone was in a great mood there. I mean, like all the staff, they were excited. They were all really friendly. There were predetermined photo spots for you to take a selfie of yourself with the field behind you. Like it's very 2021. I mean, they totally knew, what people are doing at these vaccine sites.
Public health in the Instagram era.
It is, yeah. But, I did not and will not post my vaccine card. Because they're telling people don't do that, but they gave me a button saying we got vaccinated at Fenway Park, and it's also a very nice day outside here today in Boston, so it's super exciting. So I'm in a great mood, and one thing we're going to talk about today, the topic of this one is about solar, and who doesn't like the sun? It's been such a beautiful stretch of weather here in Boston, so it makes a lot of sense. We're talking about solar panels and implications, in real estate once you're getting solar installed. I didn't fully get where you were going with this topic when you sent it over to me. And legitimately, I said to you, like, well, what does that have to do with real estate and law? And, your first words were what?
Well, that's probably why it's a good topic to have, because these are things that people don't think about. Getting solar makes sense as a financial decision, but it can really hold up what you can do with your property. It complicates refinances, complicates resales, and it's something that I've started to see, more and more over the past couple of years. These solar companies getting in the way of refis and of sales. So they don't have to get in your way, but I at least want to raise the issue on the podcast today. And if anybody does think about solar, I'm not trying to encourage it or dissuade it. Right. But at least be aware, at least know the questions to ask before you sign any sort of solar contract.
Can we at least say that the two of us, like, we are in favor of renewable energy, right? Solar energy is a good thing, right?
Yeah, no, we're not, maybe that's controversial to some sections of the audience, but yes, we do support cleaner energy. We do support, people investing in their properties. And we just want to make sure that they're doing it in a smart way.
And you just said investing in their properties. So does solar do solar panels actually, could they improve the value of your property upon resale?
Yes.
They can. Okay.
Yeah, of course. So I mean, you're coming with a bit of a power plant built to the property that is going to be certainly a plus for a number of buyers.
Yeah.
How much it adds to your value depends exactly where and how much and all that, just like any other amenity to your home would. But it absolutely does increase the value of a home.
Now, I have not done the numbers myself, but just like with real estate, there are a number of different ways that people can make money. It's not just in the money that's coming in on a regular basis. I do have a coworker, actually. I think he's getting solar panels installed at his McMansion outside of Boston. And I think there's an initial investment, whatever it is, $20,000, $30,000 or something like that. But then there's a tax credit on top of that. And then the bills that he'll be paying to heat and cool his ridiculously large house are going to go down dramatically because of these solar panels.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's exactly right. We can actually start kind of walking into the details of it, but it's a fairly large investment for a property. So, a more modest single family home puts you in the ballpark of $15,000 to $20,000 to do an installation for solar panels, and that's a major investment upfront of capital. But as you suggested, it's offset by two things. One are tax benefits, and the other are cost savings in electricity over time. So both sit in front of a calculator or a spreadsheet or input in your own particular situation. But it doesn't mean you'll never have to buy power from the grid ever again. It doesn't mean that you'll have zero electrical bills, but it definitely does save you money in the long run.
So let's talk about the different ways that you can acquire solar panels, and then I also want to hear some anecdotes about what you've come up against as you do some refinancing or buying and selling a property, and how solar panels might get involved with that. So, how many ways are there that you can acquire these panels? We should start with that.
There are three general ways. You could buy them, you can finance them, or you could lease them. Same as a car. And I'll start just to set the table with the easiest way, and the way that has caused me no complications, and that's just buying them. Of course, go out and outright buy the solar equipment yourself, pay for the installation yourself, and then you don't have the implications that we'll talk about later with refinancing or selling the home. It's a great idea because it does add value to your home right away. And now that value is already, that's pure equity that you've now put into your home, and you can most directly reap the tax benefit. So the solar panel tax credit has been extended for this year at 26%. So for your primary home or your second home, you can take a tax credit of about 26%. Check with your tax professional for your situation. That's my disclosure for all of these things. But there is a pretty consequential tax savings for it right out of the gate. But then the downsides of purchasing it outright are pretty clear. That means you're going to have a really high upfront cost. And so you're going to be digging out of a hole for a little while until you finally have a net positive with your investment. So you've put up a lot of cost, even with the 26% offset as a tax credit. You've made an investment, and it's going to take a little bit of time before the energy savings mean financial savings. Okay,
so way number one to acquire these is to just buy them outright, either cash or home equity line of credit. If you want to dip into your home equity, you can pay for it that way. I suppose you could rob a bank also. If they don't catch you, you could use the cash for that, but it's probably a bad idea.
However you get cash, you can use it to purchase solar panels for your home.
Bitcoin, crypto, I'm sure there's some taking it out there.
For our podcast listeners, we always have to mention Bitcoin and crypto just so that they stay tuned in. But yes, you can always resell. However you want to cash out, you can do it.
Have we talked about crypto in the past?
No, but you talk about it incessantly.
Yeah, it's my new thing. That's what I'm into right now. So.
No, and you can buy NFTs of this podcast at the site below.
We should do that. What a great idea. Okay. All right. So way number one, we are buying them outright. Way number two to acquire these panels.
You can, same thing as you would a car, you can finance them over time. So, if the cost up front is too much for you, or you want to start realizing some savings out of the gate, you can go around and finance them. Just about every solar installer out there has financing options. In fact, that's where they make the bulk of their money. But there are the normal downsides to financing. There are financing costs involved. With some of them, you can actually encounter pretty high financing costs. But where I really wanted to go today is talk about the hidden problems with financing the solar panels, and that comes down to the lien that you have on the property. So, of course, if you're financing something, just like you'd get a car loan, the lender is going to have a lien on that asset. So they're going to have a lien on the solar panel. But now we're talking about real estate adjacent. Their lien, it technically is just on the solar panel equipment itself, not on the underlying real estate. But a lot of mortgage lenders are really skittish with keeping that on there. So I've encountered many situations where the existence of a solar lien causes pretty substantial delay or complications with the refinance or sale. What has to happen is the solar company has to release the lien for the refinance to happen, and then they can reattach the lien. Otherwise, that lien would be ahead of the mortgage, which is just completely unacceptable to mortgage lenders. And that should be a pretty easy task to do. But when it comes down to it, a lot of these solar companies are really difficult to get a hold of. They may not have phone numbers at all. And even those of us who are doing these closings have no way of kind of keeping track of these discharges that have to happen. And they can take several months for you to get the piece of paper to release the lien to allow the refinance to happen. So get to know the solar lien company's reputation for responsiveness and their policies for releasing it. Because what also happens is some of these solar companies won't release the lien. Sometimes those liens are tied towards specific government programs, but if they may not release the lien at all, which would make it impossible for you to refinance your mortgage loan. And that's a big price to pay. And certainly if it's an unexpected price to pay for your solar panels.
Do you know how long the lease term or the finance term is normally for solar panels?
It varies, but you're probably looking something around 10 years.
Okay, so within those 10 years, if you go to refinance or I guess even sell, money is still owed on the solar panels, and you gotta rectify that with the company from which you bought them. And that does sound like a bit of a mess that people aren't really thinking about when they're hearing about low rates and getting some cash out of your property or coming into a better loan term. And you forget about those panels you put on your roof 5 years ago and how they actually would impact whether or not you could have your property refinanced.
I guess the other thing to keep in mind with refinance is now that you've had this debt, this is a debt that you're repaying, that monthly payment is actually factoring into your debt to income ratio for you to apply for a refinance or mortgages and other property. So, depending on the rate, maybe that's only a slight effect for you. But if you're right on the fence of qualifying based on your debt to income, this is another monthly payment that's going to factor against it.
The lenders do ask if you have any other commitments, when they're determining that debt to income. And this certainly would be one of those commitments.
It's going to be found both ways. It's going to be found in your credit report as a outstanding balance, in good standing, but it's going to appear that way. And it will also show up to the closing attorney who examines title for the property. The lien will be there. And because those are reported in those very public ways, it's impossible to kind of, just sign up for the solar panel financing and then forget about it. It will come back. It will get noticed.
So you're saying that you've noticed this coming up more often when you're doing closings. Like, how as an attorney do you get notified that this might exist? Like, do you find the lien there?
Yeah, the title search.
Title search? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
So it appears as a lien on the property, just like a home equity line of credit would when you're searching with the Registry of Deeds for the most part. Sometimes these will be UCCs, but even then they'll be recorded with the Registry of Deeds. So it's a mark on title that neither, that the attorney will notice if they're diligently examining title, and it will be something that will have to get discharged or subordinated.
So what if the attorney is not diligently managing title and down the line one of these liens slips through, and then you're going to look to sell the property later on or something, or somebody takes new ownership of the property and now suddenly there's a solar lien that they didn't discover the very first time.
Well, if the lien will still be there, and if there's a debt that's owed, the solar company would, and the debt is not paid, the solar company will have the right to retake the solar equipment and, enter your property, go on the roof, and take down the solar equipment. That's ultimately what the lien is their right to do just that in the event that they're left unpaid. But the mortgage company is of either the refinancing company or the buyer's lender. Their loan's going to now be, in second place behind there. So they'll be pretty upset. From your point of view, if you're able to refinance and the attorney doesn't catch it, great. The consequences for you are pretty minimal, and you've actually escaped the hard work of having to do to pay it off. But it gives a problem for the buyer or for the new lender.
With title insurance, that's kind of where it comes in. I mean, I actually, I've owned owner's policies also. I think one time I actually had to have an attorney. This is even probably before you were even out of law school. Like, I had a different attorney I was working with in my first condo, and I did have title insurance, and there was some issue somewhere in the chain of title when I was looking to sell that property, refinance or something. And, I made one phone call, and next thing I knew, it was resolved immediately. I don't know exactly what the problem was, but I don't know if it was a title issue or what, but
it will protect any costs that you have, but it will not protect the solar equipment. The solar equipment will get pulled even if you have title insurance on the property.
But you have to think that 1% of the transactions or something, less, more, whatever it is, the numbers add up. With 1,000 transactions, 1% is 10 of them. Like, you got to think that sometimes this gets missed, right?
Of course, there are mistakes in title exams that happen all the time. Even the most diligent attorney or title examiner can miss something, certainly if it's misindexed by the Registry of Deeds. So things are skipped, things are missed, and that is why we have title insurance. Mm-hmm. So the title insurance will protect your interest in real estate, but it won't protect your right to the solar panels. Now,
what if, I know we've only talked about two of the different ways you can get them yet, but we're kind of running down this road of legal issues with the solar liens. Now, What if you sell your property and there's still $10K owed to the solar company? Do they get paid off with the sale, or how does that work?
Strictly speaking, the seller of the property is still going to be on the hook to make the monthly payments, and the buyer can purchase the property confident that they own the property, but not yet the solar panels. I say strictly speaking because you can see how difficult that arrangement will be in the future. If you have a seller that's now on the hook to pay monthly payments for years that they don't even reside in the property, and the buyer just hoping that they do it. For most practical purposes, the buyer is going to expect and want that to be paid off as part of closing. And that's not necessarily a bad thing for the seller. If they made the investment in the property and they believe that it's going to increase their value in the property, well, the equity they have from the purchase price should be able to discharge that without a problem if the investment was wise. So it's not necessarily a problem that the seller needs to dodge, but most buyers will expect that this gets paid off as part of closing. And in fact, if they're buying a home with solar panels, their purchase price should account for that too, that they're purchasing solar panels.
Yeah, and you'll want that to be a condition of the sale, right? You could probably put that in the paperwork saying, listen, I'm going to, I'll pass papers on this as long as this gets, paid in full and you prove that you did that.
That would be definitely advisable for the real estate agent from the very beginning to put that into the offer to purchase. You can make the argument that the standard form language already creates this obligation, but since solar panels are likely something that the listing agent's going to know of, the buyer's agent's going to know of, making it clear how the purchase is going to treat the solar panels is important to do. So when in doubt, put it in writing with the offer to purchase. The attorneys can clarify in the purchase and sale agreement.
Okay. We're talking with Rory Gill, once again here from NextHome Titletown Real Estate at UrbanVillage Legal. And today's topic is all about solar panels and solar liens and things you might not have thought about from a real estate law perspective. We've gotten to two of the ways you could acquire solar panels. What is the third?
The last is my least favorite way to acquire solar panels, but it still may make sense for some people, and that is leasing them. This is the lowest cost way to acquire solar panels for your property, and it's a way to ensure that you are getting monthly benefits from the very beginning. But a lease is just that you won't own the solar panels. The solar company will be renting them out to you on a monthly basis. Similar with a car lease, there may be a chance, and maybe a already prescribed chance, to buy out the lease at the very end and acquire the solar panels. So depending on the length of ownership that you have in mind and your financial goals, it still may make sense to enter this arrangement. But with it comes a lot of other legal challenges when we go to do refinances and sales, and they're pretty unique.
What are some of those?
So with refinances, it's just the same. There's a lien existing on the property that will have to get discharged, at least temporarily, to do the refinance. And this is where some of the solar companies may not even agree to do that. They may not want to risk their security position to allow the refinance to happen. So it's not a given that the solar companies will accommodate you there. But the biggest quirk comes when you go to sell a property where there's an existing lease on solar panels.
So what happens then if you're leasing the panels, you go to sell the property, you don't even own them?
What happens then?
Transfer ownership.
So what happens then? To transfer ownership over, the solar company has to vet and approve the buyer of the house for that buyer to take over the lease. So you're selling a property with an existing lease of solar panels, and the buyer is going to have to take on that lease and that monthly payment of the solar panels. And in order for that to happen, the solar company is going to want to review the buyer, going to check the buyer's credit, and give their approval. Now, that obviously takes additional time in the closing process, but a buyer may be reluctant to put their information out there and to go through the process with the seller's solar company so that the lease can be approved. So it's the least valuable way to the buyer because they're not necessarily going to own the solar panels. They're going to step into your position as the leaseholder of the solar panels. And it's a lot more friction and a lot more work for the buyer. So in this case, a lot of the sellers will actually explore just doing an early buyout of the lease or getting rid of the solar panels, which would be actually a breach of the lease. With this kind of contract, the seller's hands are really tied. It provides the least amount of value to prospective buyers, and it actually causes a good amount of friction for prospective buyers. So obviously, you can see some of the advice that would come out of this, and that's if you have the intent to sell a property in the near future, to maybe reconsider doing the lease option for solar panels.
And there could be situations where you are selling your property, you're under agreement, and your buyer could back out if you ask them, to allow the solar company to vet them to take over the lease.
Yep. So this would be a strategy. If I were listing a property with a solar lease on it, I would disclose that up front so that expectation is set from the beginning. So you don't want to give a buyer who has cold feet to change their mind. And you don't want to throw this curveball at them last minute. So this should be something disclosed from the very, very beginning of the process so that the buyer at least knows what they're entering. And then the key thing that I should have probably led with for the solar panel leases or that you don't qualify directly for any tax credit for this. So if we're talking with the 26% savings for the installation of solar panels, that does not cover leases. You may indirectly get the benefit of it because the company installing the solar panels may get some sort of tax benefit from it for doing so, and they can pass its savings on to you with a lower lease rate, but you won't be enjoying the direct benefits of the tax credit.
Right. Here in the Northeast, guessing it's getting to be more and more common, or you're running into it more, in other markets. I'd imagine like Arizona, California, they're a little further down the line with solar panels being a little more common. Not that it's uncommon here, but
Perhaps, but
Northeast.
while this isn't the science and technology podcast, solar panels have improved drastically, over the past few decades. And this means that properties in the Northeast and colder climates can enjoy the benefits of solar just as you could do in Arizona.
I was a science major, maybe I should involve some life sciences into this podcast.
All right, so do so. So what do we think about the advancement of solar panels and batteries?
I don't think we got to that chapter during my biology degree studies, but I'll get back to you on that. Let me go Google that. So everything about solar panels today, we've talked a lot with attorney broker Rory Gill, who has been encountering more and more solar leases as part of his closings and listings and working with buyers. Are you seeing this more in suburban markets? Are you seeing this hitting the cities just yet? Where is this happening? Where are you finding solar as a consideration?
That's actually a good question. We're seeing this much more in the suburbs than we are in the city. A complicating factor for the city is the fact that many of the buildings are condo associations. So we have the added complexity of who owns the roof and then who should enjoy the benefits of the solar panels that are installed on the roof. Couple that with the fact that condo associations themselves don't have large electrical demands in most buildings, that leaving it kind of impractical or just very little incentive for private condo owners to invest in solar. So we are seeing these much more in the suburban markets and single family markets.
With that said, we do have a flat roof here, and it's pretty sunny up there. And I'm here in the head house right now recording. Maybe we should talk to the association about getting some solar panels up here and letting everyone benefit from them.
We should. I mean, it does feel a bit of a waste seeing the great solar potential up there and having it not be put to any good use. It's worth exploring. How's that?
I would disagree about not being put to any good use. I mean, we just opened the roof deck, this past weekend. I got an umbrella out there. I got a big sectional. I just tilled all the dirt. I'm ready to plant far too many tomato plants, even more than last year. So there's a lot of benefit to this.
Okay, so you are using solar energy for some good use, yes.
I am, and we're recapturing a lot of the rainwater in my big pots full of potting soil. So we should talk about roof gardens at some point because I know there's companies out there that utilize roof space in cities and they make square foot gardens up there. Perhaps they're also working in the solar space as well. But that'll be a whole separate topic because we didn't prepare for that.
Up next, off the grid living in South Boston.
All right, great. Well, anything that we should leave our listeners with? People have probably found this podcast because they've subscribed to it or they happen to be searching on legal issues with solar and solar liens, and they found their way here for that reason. So, if you're considering solar and you're a homeowner, do you have a recommendation as to what you should do?
Yeah, if you're in Massachusetts, give us a call and we can at least help you out when you're making the decision. Again, I'm not evangelizing or discrediting solar. I just think there are certain questions that you want to ask in advance. So if you're looking for somebody to help you out here in Massachusetts, give us a call and we can help point you in the right direction. For other parts of the country, just make sure you're asking questions about how this will impact your ability to refinance and do some of your own investigation there and maybe consult your existing mortgage lender to see what their requirements would be. You just plan ahead. You don't want it to become impossible for you to refi or to sell.
Right. Let's go over how people can find you. Rory at NextHomeTitletown.com. Did I get that right?
Yep. So for any brokerage questions, you can reach me at Rory at NextHomeTitletown.com. Or for your legal questions, I'm at Rory Gill at UrbanVillageLegal.com. Otherwise, just Google me. I'm easy to find. If you're not sure if you're asking a brokerage or legal question, just find me in any one of those venues and we'll be in touch.
Excellent. And if you're are looking at properties and you see solar panels, just realize that it might not be as simple as just buying the place. It could be, but there might be some other considerations as well in terms of solar liens and what the status is of those panels. Are they owned? Are they leased? Are they financed? just ask some questions, do some due diligence with your agent. If you're working with an agent that has no idea, you might want to switch agents maybe, because this is something that agents are going to have to become more and more familiar with, or at least you should ask your agent to learn a little bit more about what the status is of the solar panels if you're looking to buy a place.
If you're asking these questions early enough in the process of either getting the solar panels, early enough in the process of refinancing or selling, you should be able to avoid most surprises. So just the key tip of advice is to ask the questions early. If your agent's unaware of this or unfamiliar with the subject, just make sure that they're asking the questions early enough in the process.
Right. Thanks again, Rory. We appreciate your time. This is the Real Estate Law Podcast. And once again, my name is Jason Muth, and I'm casual Jason Muth today, and hopefully I'll be here for the next podcast. God willing, the vaccine kicks in. But, I'm about to go lay down right now just to make sure that my body is forming all those great antibodies. Thanks again for all your time today. We will see you next time.
Right, thanks, Jason.
Bye-bye.
This has been the Real Estate Law Podcast. Because real estate is more than just pretty pictures, and law goes well beyond the paperwork and courtroom arguments. We're powered by NextHome Titletown, Greater Boston's progressive real estate brokerage. More at nexthometitletown.com. And UrbanVillage Legal, Massachusetts Real Estate Counsel, serving savvy property owners, lenders, and investors. More at urbanvillagelegal.com. Today's conversation was not legal advice, but we hope you found it entertaining and informative. Discover more at realestatelawpodcast.com. Thank you for listening.